barking dogs, whatnot, are going to disturb everybody, and it makes my voice go away as we're speaking. But feel free, please, to add comments or to ask questions or to be involved in the conversation. I don't want it to necessarily just be one way. And if there's nothing that you want to know while I'm busy going through the talk, then at the end, we'll open up for questions. So hold on to any ideas that you don't want to bring up in the middle of the conversation for the end of the conversation, and we can address those. So thank you, Tracy, for that introduction. For me, it all started when I was in my early 20s. I went to a personal development course and I realized that my life didn't have to be what it was. My experience of life didn't have to be what it was. I struggled with anger. I was very aggressive. I was super, super, super defensive. I was very sensitive to the world. I felt as though I was literally under attack by the world all the time. And I had these massive defenses up to protect myself against the world. And the irony of that is that the upshot of that was that my experience of the world was, in fact, that I was always under that attack and I needed to keep these defenses up, because you really get what you focus on. You get where you put your attention. You get an experience of what you think is going on. And so having done this personal development course in my early 20s, I really became very passionate and very interested in how I could change my life experience, because it really wasn't working to be so angry and so aggressive and so sensitive and so defensive. And so it just really wasn't working for me. It felt very uncomfortable all the time. I was constantly in the state of proving myself, of feeling anxious about being enough, of not feeling like I was lovable, of just all that chatter would get me down. And I had a perfectly sound childhood. There was nothing going on. I had no excuse, no reason for all of this shenanigans. But the truth was, I still experienced that feeling. And I think that that is probably true for everybody. Would you guys tell me that's true for you? Do you have thinking that drives you bats? Yeah? Do you have an experience of this busy, busy mind that just makes you feel sometimes anxious or sometimes less than, or sometimes like you just can't handle things, or you can't do enough, or you can't be enough for the rest of the world? Anybody else experience that? So from that time, I started trying to figure out how does it work that some people can manage this emotional freedom and that I am stuck in this emotional turmoil all the time. And what do I have to know and understand in order to get out of this place where I'm constantly in this kind of this choppy water all the time, up and down and getting swept away by my thoughts and constantly having to look after everything around me and being in control of everything around me and always having to push and push and push uphill with my career and the people around me. Why is it that I'm like that? And is it possible for me to have a different experience? And so I read everything, and I did all the things I was supposed to do, and I did a massive amount of courses, and I studied and I toiled and I sweated, and I tried to become this better person that could somehow deserve to feel like I was okay. And the truth of the matter is that there were certain things along the way that were really helpful to me, certain personal transformation techniques and certain understandings that were very helpful to me. But actually, the thing that makes the change is insight. And what insight means to me is that when I get a momentary deep understanding of what the misunderstanding or the thing is that I'm holding on to, or the thing is that's dictating the way that I produce life for myself, when I get an understanding of what that's been, and I see clearly what it is and how it's creating a trap that's actually keeping me stuck in the state, how it's not working for me, that's when I get the most change happening in my life. Just instantaneous, unfettered, nothing else required but this new, insightful understanding. Now, in personal transformation and personal development work, if you've ever done any of that kind of thing, if you've ever pursued that goal for yourself, you've probably experienced that what you've done is you've pursued trying to change a symptom. Yeah, I see a smile from Deborah over there. So we've tried to change a symptom. So for me, I was trying to change this aggression, and I was trying to change this anger, and I was trying to change this defensiveness. But these things were all symptoms. They were never the underlying issue. They were never the problem on which everything was actually resting. They were never the misunderstanding or the sabotage from which I was doing life. They were simply the symptom of that misunderstanding. And it was only when I started to really get that my life changed completely. And the way I got it was I studied something called the 3 principles, which is really just an understanding of how the mind works to create your felt experience. So how thinking is creating my emotional space in this moment. Now, mindfulness is the practice of watching thought in action. We're watching ourselves in action, and we're watching the thinking and the emotional space that is generating in action. And there's a very good reason why we do this watching thing. But before I even show you that and why you would do that, it would be really, really helpful to understand why we're watching and what we're watching for. Because it's all very well to learn to watch, but unless you understand why you're watching and what you're watching for, it's pretty much a wasted exercise. So many, many people will learn to meditate, but they learn to meditate as an exercise because it's apparently so great for you, which it is. And it's so wonderful for the mind body, which it is. But because they don't have a really good basic understanding of what we're trying to achieve with the meditation, a lot of the time they're missing the really, really big impact that meditation could have for them. Who of you meditate currently? Anybody? Who has ever meditated before? Who's ever tried meditating and sat back and said, well, I can't do this. My thinking is everywhere. I don't know how anybody else is managing to do this, but I can't manage it. Okay, so this is because the nature of the mind is to be very, very busy. This is the design. It is the nature of the mind. It is how we created. There's no getting around the fact that we have thought, and that's the design. And so we have this kind of wonderful misunderstanding around meditation that says, oh, well, that person sitting on that rock in this beautiful lotus position with this fabulous upright spine looks so comfortable and so serene, and it must be beautifully quiet and wonderful in there. And that is deeply delusional, because that is not what's happening when somebody's trying to meditate. Would you guys agree? The meditators amongst you would agree? That silence thing is hell no, don't know where it is, don't know where I'm going to find it. It is elusive as can be. Because actually the nature of the mind is to be very, very busy. We have approximately 90,000 thoughts a day. 90,000 thoughts a day. That's a hell of a lot of thinking. Now, here's the thing about those 90,000 thoughts. Some of them are just passing by like a radio playing in the background. You know, when that radio plays in the background, there's music on, sometimes there's a bunch of chatter, but if you were doing something else at the same time, it would come in and come out without you even really paying any attention to it. Would you agree? But sometimes on the radio pops up that song. You know, that song that you just love, and you just can't wait to hear it. And when you hear it, it takes you back to that experience, maybe where you were having that holiday with the people that you loved the most, and you were all jolling so well, and it was so happy, and it was so fantastic, and it was so wonderful. That song. And in that moment when that song pops up, it draws your attention to it. Have you noticed that? When your favorite song comes on the radio, you notice it. Now, the DJ didn't put that song on the radio because that was special for Tracy or special for Ellis or special for Ange. They just put that on the playlist. It just happens that we have associated something to that song. We've linked something to that song that makes that song very special for us, or very sad for us, or very wonderful for us, or very something for us. And because we've linked it, when it comes on, we notice it. Our attention is more attuned to that song. So this is how our thoughts are working. They're busy passing us by, la 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 la, 90,000, blah 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 all day long. But sometimes we have a thought, and that thought has a little bit more history. It's got a little bit more of a story associated with it. There's a past event that we associate with that thought. There's something more that we put on that thought. And that thought takes our attention, draws our attention in that moment. So let me give you an example of that kind of thought. Let's say that I'm in the shower and I'm busy thinking, oh, okay, let me just wash my hair. And I go with a shampoo, and the shampoo goes, and it's like, okay, the shampoo bottle is pretty much empty. I'm going to have to get new shampoo. Now, for me, I don't really care about shampoo. It's not an important issue for me. By the time I get to my shopping list, there's absolutely no way in hell I will remember put shampoo on the shopping list. Would you guys agree? It's just come and it's gone because I've had all these thoughts in between. But let's say that when I was a child, I had this very frizzy hair and it was very fly away, and people used to tease me about it. And I developed a bit of a thing about my hair. I had some associated thought about my hair. I developed this idea that shame, why me? My brothers don't have terrible hair. It's so unfair that I got the bad genes. And I developed this, oh, shame, why me? You know, people tease me about my hair, so it's a source of pain and discomfort for me. And I developed this, oh dear, there's some past, maybe I had some bullying and, you know, my hair came up in that bullying and people took advantage and used that as a way to dig and make me feel sad and sorry for myself. And so I've got all of this past history about my hair. Now when I go, oh, I need shampoo, there's the possibility for something else to come along that is a little bit more than I better put this on the shopping list. Would you agree? And so when that something more comes along, it comes in with feeling, because I've got all sorts of feeling associated with these old stories. So I think to myself, oh, okay, I need some shampoo. And I start to build myself a bonfire of shampoo moving into I'm not enough, hurtful feeling, sorry for myself, victimhood. I need shampoo. Oh, okay, I need shampoo. Oh, geez, I've got to go and get that expensive shampoo. Oh, no, it's so unfair that I have to buy that expensive shampoo. Why did I get born? Okay, here comes the feeling of victim. Why have I got the bad hair? Here comes the feeling of victim inside of me. And so the feeling starts to rise up. And now I'm feeling sorry for myself. And by the way, not only do I have bad hair, but people tease me about my hair. Now I go back to when I was maybe 7 or 8 or 9 years old, and some kids were teasing me about my hair, and I can go back and I can have this experience again about them teasing me about my hair, even though they're not actually, by the way, in the shower with me in this moment, just in case I didn't notice. But boy, can I bring them in my mind into the shower in this moment. And now I'm starting to feel victimized, and I'm starting to feel angry, and I'm starting to feel upset, and I'm going to start to feel the abuse of that being picked on, and I'm starting to feel angry, and I'm fighting with them, and I've got this big fight going in my mind. And then I leave the shower, and then of course I walk past the mirror, and there's also cellulite, and then I walk past and I go put some makeup on, and there's also wrinkles, and it's all going to hell in a handbasket. Because now I'm feeling like I'm worthless, I'm awful, I'm horrible, because I needed to buy shampoo. You see, the problem is not the fault of shampoo, and it's not the fault of my bad hair, and it's not the fault of the kids who tease me, or the fact that I've got to buy special shampoo, or that I've thought to myself that I'm ugly because I've got bad hair days. The problem is that when I think I have to buy shampoo, I'm not paying attention to what happens next. I'm not paying attention to the fact that the next thought that comes along is a thought about something that no longer exists in my life. It's a past experience. It's not happening now. It'll never happen again. And I really don't have to worry about it. Instead, I'm paying a lot of attention to being in that imagined space of that thought. I'm buying that thought as though it's real in this moment. Now, here's the thing. I cannot have a feeling state, an emotional state, that isn't generated from thinking. It's impossible for me to have emotion that isn't generated from thought. And we're very conned by the idea that emotion comes from an outside-in experience, because that's what our brain makes it look like. Now, here's the thing, guys. If I can teach you one thing today, it's to start to consider that it's not the outside experience that creates my feeling in the moment. It's what I do with that outside experience in my thinking. And the biggest difficulty with this is that the majority of my thinking is happening very unconsciously. It's pre-programmed in. And the first that I know that I've had any thought at all about it is that I go to the feeling. So I'm tootling along, everything is fine, suddenly I'm feeling anxious. And I'm thinking, what? I don't remember thinking any anxious thoughts. I don't know what happened here. What happened? I'm just feeling anxious. And so because we don't understand that it's old thinking that's been habitualized, that we're not even aware that is going on, that is creating this anxiety for me, we look to the outside world to try to control what's happening outside of us so that we don't have a situation that cues this anxiety for us. Would you guys agree that that's what you've been doing? Yeah. We look to the outside world. Well, here's the bad news and the good news, actually. You have next to no control over the outside world. Anybody amongst you a control freak? Anybody amongst you spend a lot of time, energy, and effort trying to control the outside world so that you'll have a better internal experience? I would be surprised if you haven't been doing that, or if you haven't done it at some point. I still do it sometimes, and I know better. But we are very conned by the experience that our brain consciously produces for us, that this is an outside-in thing that generates our emotional space. In fact, all of our emotional space is generated through our thinking. Some of our thinking, very conscious, we can track it. A plus B plus C equals Z. Oh, here comes the emotion that comes with that. Some of our thinking, very unconscious. The first we know of it is we have feeling. So if it's true that every single one, without fail, of our emotions are generated by our thoughts, then we can come to the understanding that actually the thing that we have to fix is not in the outside world. The thing that we have to work with, and not even fix, but the thing that we have to look to work with, is in our inner world. And if that is true, and we started to look to our inner world, where would we start to look? How do we look to our inner world in a way that allows us to start to notice that we are generating the emotional experience, and to ride that emotional experience in a way that is so much lighter and freer and less gepla and unconcerned and unworried about the fact that we have somehow generated some anger or some frustration or some irritation or some feeling of not being enough or some experience for ourselves. Well, here's the thing. If I generated that experience through my own thinking, then it essentially amounts to a brain fart. Now, I call it a brain fart, not just because I'm naturally crude, which unfortunately I am, but because if you think about the way that your colon works, okay, for those of you that are terribly sensitive, you may put your fingers over your ears and go la 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 for a while. But if you think about the way that your colon works, you will notice that the nature of your colon is to digest your food, have some bacteria in there to help you along to do that job, and to produce some wind when it happens. Yes? I know us ladies, we never fart, but you men will agree that that's what happens. And so the nature of the colon is to fart out some of this hot air that it produces. And when we fart out of hot air, preferably we don't do it in too much public, and we maybe pretend it wasn't us, but we're really not concerned about the fact that we fart out some hot air, are we? If you were driving in your car in this moment and all your windows were rolled up, and you farted out a really good one, like a stinking, stinking fart, do you keep those windows rolled up, Sniff deeply. Whoa! Jeepers creepers! That is hectic! Whoa! Oh my word, do I have colon cancer? Gee whiz! Oh, I think I can feel the tears running down my face. That's really making my eyes burn. Oh my word. Jeez! Do I have to go and see the doctor? Okay, I'm going to make an appointment for the doctor tomorrow. This cannot be right. There is something going on here. Maybe I have to become a vegetarian. Do I smell some old garlic in there? Is that last week's stew going on there? What is going on? Oh my word, I think I'm going to die. Or do we roll down the windows, let the air come in, the fart go out, and never think about it again? Because we know something about the nature of the colon, and we accept that thing pretty unconditionally. We are not concerned about the fact that the colon has this nature, and that its nature is to fart out a fart, and sometimes it's going to be stinking. But we haven't really come to the same understanding about how the mind works. We haven't really understood the nature of the mind. The nature of the mind is that it's farting out 90,000 thoughts a day. That is how it's designed, it's how it works, and there is no getting around it. The nature of the mind is that sometimes a thought that it farts out has got some stickiness to some old experience, and that old experience is going to bring us an emotional feeling. And there's no getting around it. The nature of the mind is that it loves drama. If I fart out a stinking thinking, I'm going to want to sniff it because my mind loves drama. But it is also true that the nature of the mind is that we have the capacity to almost be a split individual, a place of higher consciousness that is able to watch that. A place of higher consciousness that recognizes that we do thinking, but that thinking is not us. We are not thinking, we simply do thinking. This body, this meat package that I was born with, does thinking. Does that make sense to you guys? Can I get a nod or a, does that make sense to you? So, are you in there? Are you in that meat package? And if you're in that meat package, who are you? Are you the meat package itself? Are you all the thinking that the meat package generates? Or are you a higher place of consciousness watching this meat package generate these thoughts, do this stuff, have this experience on this planet, and aware of it? That is mindfulness. That is being that part of your consciousness that is aware that your meat package, your system is doing thinking, but that you are not thinking. So I'm going to make that a little bit more simplistic and a little bit clearer to you. Have you guys noticed that there's a voice in your head? Have you noticed the voice in your head that's constantly talking to you? Yeah, can I have a hand up for those of you who've noticed the voice in your head? Right. Here's what I consider to be absolutely crazy about the voice in my head. The voice in my head refers to me in the third person so often that it's actually probably more often than it refers to me as myself. What are you doing? Oh, did you notice that? All the things I noticed, it wants to tell me that I noticed. Oh, did you notice how blue the sky is? Yes, I was there. I was looking at it just a moment ago. You really didn't have to tell me. And even more bizarre, it uses my name. Angela, what are you doing? And it's always so rude. Angela, what is wrong with you? Come on now, you can do better than this. And it gives me a hard time. Have you noticed what a hard time the voice in your head gives you? Now, whose voice in their head doesn't give them a hard time? Anybody? It always gives you a hard time. But if you can hear the voice in your head and notice that there's a voice in your head speaking to you and giving you a hard time, then there must be another level of consciousness that is the thing that hears this. Yes? Right. Now, if we could engage that level of consciousness to pay more attention to noticing when this voice in our head is full of rubbish, full of nonsense. And that the hard time that it was giving us was generating a bunch of feeling. And sometimes, because this is, you guys are, you all mentored and you come to Orchard because it's in relation to work and to doing better and to be more successful. In relation to that, even, the voice in your head is giving you a hard time about whether you're successful enough, whether you've done enough, whether you are enough, whether you can do it. Have you noticed that? It's the voice in your head that's giving you a whole bunch of lip about who you are and whether you are and what you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to show up and who you're supposed to show up as and whether people are going to judge you and what their judgment is and blah, blah, blah. It is not you. It's just a voice talking. And mindfulness is noticing that voice and knowing what it is and letting it go. That's mindfulness. That's part of mindfulness. Mindfulness is also noticing where I am right now and paying attention just to that thing. So, you know that expression, being in the zone? Yeah, you guys have all heard the expression being in the zone. Yes? Can I get a nod? Can I get a look at me? Can I get some eye contact? Thank you. So you know what I'm talking about when I say you're in the zone, yes? Have you ever been in the zone? Who's been in the zone before? What a feeling. Am I right? What a feeling to be in the zone. In the zone, we are 100% present with what we're doing. Yes? We're not distracted. We're not chatting to ourselves. We're not telling ourselves how bad we are, how we're not enough, or telling ourselves we'll never be successful or we'll never make this work. Or we're just doing what we're doing and we are focused. That is mindfulness, being in the zone. You are mindfully doing what you're doing. Now, let me ask you this, and you can let me know with a nod or a head shake. Do you think that you're going to perform better if you are in focused, concentrated attention in the zone than if you're not? Yes. Are you going to do better in the zone? Yes or no? Yeah. You're going to do much better if you're in the zone, if you are focused. And so what the zone is that you're in the place where you have your attention on the thing that you're doing, and that your attention is not drifting away elsewhere. That is mindful attention. Now we're going to be in the zone just in this moment for 2 minutes. And the zone that we're going to be in is the zone of sitting in your chair and noticing your body. Are you guys good to do that with me? Can we do that? Yeah? All right, so I want you to all just sit into your chair and relax down into it. And as you start to sit in your chair, I want you just to be conscious of the feeling of your body in the chair. What does it feel like? Is it comfortable? Is it uncomfortable? Do you get the sense that actually you need to move? I had my legs crossed. And my body said, yeah, actually, I know you did that, but that's not so comfy now that I mention it. Now that you're paying attention to me. Can you feel the sense of the weight of your body? Can you notice your breathing? Can you notice if it feels like there's any pain or discomfort? Can you notice if you're balanced over your bones? Or if you're hovering over your muscles? And if you're hovering, can you notice what muscles are feeling tight and what's feeling loose? And if you just pay attention to that, what do you notice is happening as you just pay attention to being here in your body in this moment? And in a moment, I'm just going to ask you, I'm just going to be quiet, silent for a moment, but after that, I'm just going to ask you, whoever wants to give me some feedback, to just pop your mic back on. And let me know what your experience of that is. So let's just do this for 30 seconds and see what happens. Okay. Tracy, is it you that's in control of their mics, or they're all controlling their own mic?
Laurie's the host.
Laurie's controlling the mics. Laurie, are you controlling their mics?
We can turn our own mics on and off.
Okay, cool. Who would like to give us some feedback from that experience? Go ahead. Put your mic on and speak out.
Hi, it's Vanessa.
Oh, sorry,
found
Vanessa.
Sorry, it went very quiet suddenly for me.
Mm-hmm. And what changed in your emotional space with that quietness?
There was no voice for a few seconds. Yeah, everything just got quieter and I was focused.
And how did it feel? Did you like it?
Loved it.
Loved it. Karen?
Well, what was interesting was when you had let us know that there would be some feedback afterwards, it was hard for my mind now to come back into the quietening, and I could feel that pull of, oh, and will you say something, and what will you say? And just noticing how both instructions to be still and notice, and then in a moment or two, we're going to do some chatting and conversation, immediately brought up a struggle in my mind.
That's really great feedback. Thank you for that. Did anybody else notice that? Yeah? No? No? That happens a lot for me too. It's like as soon as I think, oh, I'm going to be on the block, I start pre-planning. What am I going to do? What am I going to do? What am I going to say? And then that takes me out of the capacity to be present again. So thank you so much. That's really excellent feedback. Ellis, are you going to do want to say something?
Now, I suffer from tinnitus, and it became more acute in that state. I could hear that the tinnitus was dominating all my mind.
And could you relax into that? That's an interesting question, isn't it?
Yes, I did relax, but my mind couldn't. It was vacillating between my body weight, my comfort, my muscles, and this noise in my head.
So thank you for that feedback also. What's really interesting about Ellis's feedback is that we have a preference, right? It's in our nature to have a preference for something. We've developed a preference because as we've grown up, we've had various things happen to us, and some of them have been really lovely and some of them have been really not lovely. And based on that, we have developed what amounts to most of the time a fairly unconscious preference for stuff. Would you all agree? I like the color blue. Why do you like the color blue? I don't know. Probably I had a blue blankie and it felt so lovely and it was so soft and delicious. And I have a reference to blue from my blue blankie. Now I love the color blue. Yeah? I don't like it when somebody XYZs. I don't like this experience. I don't want that experience. I do want this experience. I do want this experience. This experience is good for me. I'm seeking it. And what happens because we have these preferences is that we start to set up in ourselves this outside-in experience of life, and we say to ourselves, oh, I don't like it when that thing outside of me happens. Let me try and control it. I want it to not happen so that I don't get a disturbance when my preference doesn't come about. Because it doesn't feel good when we don't get our preference. Would you guys agree? We want what we want, what we want. Damn it! Just give me what I want. I'll be perfectly happy. Come on. 7 billion people on the planet. What's wrong with you? So what we have to understand is that part of our problem is not that the outside world doesn't give us what I want. This is the design. Our problem is that we are so attached to our preference about what we want that when we get an inner disturbance, instead of letting go of the preference so that we are not particularly disturbed, we go to war. We try and change the outside environment. We resist inside of ourselves the feeling. We push down the feeling. So Ellis has tinnitus, and that is the truth, right? There's no getting around the fact that when he goes quiet, it's loud and prevalent in his ears. There's no getting around that. That is his reality, it's his experience, it's his truth. If any of you suffer from pain, when you get quiet, pain is going to be like, woohoo, pay attention to me, la 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 la. That's the truth. That is the nature of your design. Sorry.
This is Jane's ID number.
What would happen if we were able to be comfortable or in acceptance that was really able to flow with the nature of our design? What would happen for Ellis if he didn't mind the truth of the Anybody? The thing of it is that we want our lives to feel free. We want ourselves to be able to be happy. We want to be able to be content. We want to be able to know ourselves for okay in every moment, no matter what's going on. And there is only one way to achieve that. And that is to start to lose our preferences for what's actually going on. Now, I know that you guys are all working towards an outcome. You have all these goals, you have all these measurements. What is going to be success for me? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do with this life that I've got? Because we want to experience and have an adventure and make something happen and create something. And I'm not talking about not having that as a desire, a wonderful adventure to be had. I'm simply saying that you've got your energy, your heart's desire, your intention to bring into the outside world, to make this thing happen, to make this business of yours successful, to make your world look in a certain way that you would like it to look. But let me tell you something right now. You cannot even control your own thinking. Would you agree? You've got, where's my camera? There's my camera. You got this much control of the outside world. Now, here's the thing. Why do we want to control the outcome, the outside world so much? For what reason? And I'll tell you, since it's complicated on Zoom, that the natural reason that most of us want to control the outside world is that we want to be happy. Would you agree? We want to be loved. We want to be comfortable. We want to feel like we're enough and that we're okay. That's why we want to control. Would you agree with me? Yeah, can I get some nods? Can I get some eyes on me? Yes, that's what we're looking for. The problem is that when we hold preference and we insist on making that preference the thing, and we're not willing to be with the truth of what actually is in the moment, we do not feel comfortable. We do not feel safe. We do not feel happy. And as long as we're suffering from the illusion that actually I must go to the outside world to change it so that I can feel happy in my preference, we're running a bit of an uphill battle because we have this little bit of control. We have no control actually the outside. We have this little bit of influence on the outside world, and that is all the energy and all the enthusiasm and all the excitement and all the work and all the drive and all the drama that we bring to bear on it. So what would change if instead of going to your outside experience to be happy, you started to look at your inside experiences and were more mindful of the fact that the emotional discomfort that I feel in this moment is a result of my preference and my wishing that this moment was something other than what it is. And what would happen if we were able to get more and more comfortable with every outside moment, no matter what it was? Today, I don't want it to be cold. If it's cold and I have a preference for it not being cold, it's going to cause a disturbance in me. Today, I don't want it to rain. If it rains, there's going to be a disturbance in me. Well, if I can learn to love the rain, there will be no disturbance. Today, I don't want my husband to be grumpy. It bugs me when he's grumpy. Well, if my husband is grumpy, then I'm going to have to be bugged because I can't control his state of mind. Today, I want my business to make $1 million. Well, if I'm not making $1 million, I'm going to be bugged. There's going to be disturbance in me. Unless I can be comfortable with the fact that I'm not making $1 million today. You see, the purpose of mindfulness, one of the purposes, one of the many purposes, but the most important purpose of mindfulness is to start to see that you are creating an inside-out experience. You are not living an outside-in experience. You are creating an inside-out experience with the filter of your thinking that tells you this is okay and this is not okay for me. And if in that moment that you had this discomfort inside and your internal observer, your higher state of consciousness could wake up to the fact that I am creating this disturbance inside through my thinking, through my filter between me and the outside world, through my wishing something was something other than what it is, then we have the opportunity to let that go and let it be what it is, and to find in ourselves a place of absolute comfort and joy and pleasure, even when it's hitting the fan outside. Even when it's hitting the fan.
I have a question.
Let's go for it.
The question is this: I'm driving down the road and I see these beggars. I see them in such a mess, and I can't do much about it, but they're influencing my whole day. What attitude does one take?
You can be selfish.
Tell me how they're influencing your day. How does that happen?
I want to do something.
We're feeling very bad. You feel that you're restricted in how you can help this, and it's continually there, and it's going to escalate to be even worse.
And then what's going to happen?
Then I'm going to feel worse.
Okay, can you guys all listening to this, do you hear the thinking that's going on?
I don't agree with that. I think maybe it would motivate one to do something about the problem, and that could be a good thing, even if it makes you feel bad.
Okay, let me ask you this. Do I have to feel bad to be motivated to do something?
Very often, yes.
Do I have to?
No, you don't have to, but I think that's often what generates it. For doing something. You're then aware of it. Otherwise, you're not aware. If you're just into yourself, you're totally unaware.
Okay, so mindfulness is not about just being into yourself. We're mindful of the world around us. We're mindful about the cup of coffee. We're mindful about other people's experience. But my emotional state is created by the quality of my thinking in an experience. Let me tell you the difference between do and do not do. Okay, this is the Star Wars version of do or do not do. Who here has seen the first 3 series of Star Wars, like back in the day? Yeah? Yoda is busy training Luke Skywalker. He says to Luke Skywalker, take that spacecraft out of the swamp. It's buried in the swamp. He says, take it out. Luke, he's supposed to be using mind power to do this. He says, do it. Luke says, I can't do it. I don't know how to do it. I can't do it. I'm struggling. He says, stop that now. Stop that thinking. Stop going on about it. Take it out. Luke says to him, I will try. Yoda says, there is no try. There is do or do not do. When I see a beggar on the side of the road, I may do or I may do not. That is my choice. Yes? I may choose to buy social conscience today with my $5 out the window, or I might choose not to buy social conscience today by not giving him $5. Would you agree? The rest is just thinking. I don't have to think myself into a state to do something. In fact, I'm much more likely to do a really good job when my mind is clear, because in a state of clarity, I have inspiration, I have creativity, I have the capacity to come up with a really, really good plan to help the poor. There's all of these CANs at the moment. You guys heard of CANs? These wonderful community groups that are doing amazing work. My friend runs a CAN in Komiki. She feels amazing. Where is her attention? Where is her thinking? Her thinking is about, what am I going to do? Her thinking is not about, oh, I've gone into this imagined scenario about what that person is living like. I've put myself in their shoes and imagined how bad that feels. Now I feel bad too. I feel cold too. I feel freaked out too. I feel afraid too. I feel anxious too. I'm helpless in that state to help somebody else. Would you agree? My imagination, my inspiration, my energy, my state of being that allows me to move forward, to do something positive about a situation, that comes when I'm in clarity. Clarity is not an imagined state of pain. Clarity is a still, clear mind. So my answer to the question about the beggar is do or do not do. All the rest is just try. All that thinking, all that sorry for me when I think about them, all of that pain emotionally when I think about them, all of that stuff. Very compassionate, but it is just try. You don't need to hurt to take action. You need to take action to take action. If poverty is a thing that touches your heart, take action. Don't go thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking and thinking until you're completely paralyzed. Take action. And there's lots of ways that you can take action in the most amazing community spirit. I mean, you must see the community spirit of these CANs. It is beautiful. People are happy. People are generous. People are coming from love. They are heartfelt. The poor people who are getting this generosity that can't help themselves or haven't been able to, they are empowered to help themselves in this experience. They are coming out. They are helping. They are packing. They're uplifted because the attitudinal change comes from a positive intention, not a fight against poverty. Did that answer your question, Ellis? Thank you. Did that make sense to the rest of you? Did that make sense to you? Let's take some other questions. Are there any other questions for me?
Yeah.
Vanessa?
The state of mindfulness, is it something we want to achieve throughout our day, or do we start to focus on one task at a time? Because yeah, my mind is overwhelmed at the moment. So how do you so you understand the concept, but do I just start small is the question.
Right. So we don't have a lot of time to teach you mindfulness specifically here, so much as get you to understand why we do it. So that's a really great question. And my answer to that is this. Mindfulness is a learned, let me try to answer this in the best, most succinct, most useful way possible. If I wanted to play good tennis, I would have to learn how to play tennis and I would have to practice a lot. Yes? Right. And so in order to do that, I would choose the simplest shot and I would start there. And I would practice that shot, and then I would choose the next one and the next one and the next one. I would practice those shots. So ultimately, your goal for being mindful is to develop the state of mind that is the awareness part of your mind, that higher consciousness, to practice that state of higher consciousness, to always be present and aware and paying attention to what's going on. But you don't know how to play tennis yet. So you have to start learning how to do it. And in order to learn how to do it, you have to start practicing how to do it. So my advice to you is practice on the little stuff. Practice every time to wake up to the fact that you've gotten carried away in your mind with the little stuff that's not difficult. When you find that there is a feeling of resistance to something, when you find that you are not paying attention, when you're in the shower, when you're having your cup of coffee, when you do, just for a moment, pay attention. And now the most important thing is to pay attention without judgment. If you don't put without judgment in there, you're just screwing the cat, quite frankly. Without judgment, I pay attention. I feel a disturbance and I pay attention without judgment to the fact that I've got thinking that's created a disturbance. I'm in the shower, and just for a moment, in the most civilized place on the entire planet, I be in the shower and I feel the glorious, glorious experience of being in the shower. And I notice that my thinking was somewhere else. I pay attention. Oh, look, my thinking was all in my meeting and somewhere else, and I didn't even get to experience my shower. And no wonder I don't feel happy, because I'm in the happiest place I could possibly be, and I'm not even here. So let me just be here for a moment. So I do it. I'm a badminton player. Okay, when I want to learn to play a new badminton shot, I do not learn how to play a new badminton shot in the tournament where I'm playing the finals. I learn how to play a new badminton shot on the court with my coach when there's absolutely no pressure to get it right. And I do that so much until it's easy to do in that circumstance. And then I take it to a social game. And then I do it so much until it's easy to do in a social game. And then I take it to a tournament. And I do it so much in a tournament until it's easy to do in a tournament. And then I take it to the finals. Because if you're only paying attention when it's hitting the fan and when you are so stressed and you're so unhappy and you're so freaked out by yourself, it's like, you know, my mind is caught up. It's very hard to step away. But if you start paying attention to the little stuff, to the sip of your tea, to the moment in the shower, to how agitated you got when somebody cut you off in traffic, they don't care. You don't care. What's the difference? Just let it flow. And if you find that you don't resist that experience, that you just go, oh, I got irritated, let that irritation just come and go, then you're practicing mindfulness. So we do it for little things that don't have any emotional content, and we learn to enjoy those little things. We learn to just pay attention to the flower in the moment. But let me tell you something also that's going to be really of value to you. I try to learn how to be present, which is also a part of mindfulness. Be present, be where you are, yes? I try to learn how to be present. I gave myself this goal. It was like a spiritual intention, be present. 2 years later, I was still trying to learn how to be present. Then I discovered the nature of the mind. When I discovered the nature of the mind, I discovered that I get involved in all sorts of poor quality thinking. I jump in there. I'm fully engaged. I'm going all the way from I must buy shampoo to I'm a horrible person and nobody could possibly love me. When I started to notice that, I didn't get involved. Each time awareness came up and noticed that I was doing that, I let it go. I was like, oh, that's just thinking, and I let it go. Awareness became more and more habitual. It started to focus on more and more stuff. Letting stuff go got more and more easier. I started to recognize that thinking was just thought. It wasn't any more than that. There was nothing I had to do about it. Even when it came with a massive amount of emotional content, I had thought it up. I got better at letting stuff go. As that started to progress, I was learning how to play a backhand and a volley and, right? I was getting good at my tennis, mindfulness tennis. I was getting good at understanding thought and seeing thought in action and knowing that I didn't have to buy that thought. It took practice. When I practiced the little stuff, when the bigger stuff came along, I found that I was better at it. When the really big stuff came along, I found that I was better at it. Sometimes the big stuff came along and whacked me right off my pedestal. I was like, okay, I need a bit more practice before I can handle the big stuff. And now, some years later, occasionally I get whacked off my pedestal, but I no longer worry about the little stuff because I know, I've had thought. It's generated a feeling. I know what that is. Let it flow, let it go. Just rest. Rest and release it. And this is what's really interesting. It's something that I'm actually learning now. It's like your higher state of consciousness rests. You still got anxiety or feeling or irritation or stress or I'm not enoughness or whatever it is that's going on in your body. But your higher state of awareness says, oh, look what I've done to myself. And it rests. It says, oh, don't worry about that. Yeah, don't worry about that. And that can translate into your body just resting a little bit and going, okay, just relaxing a bit. And when the chemicals that have been produced to create the state inside of you are starting to get mopped up, then your body can rest a little bit too and relax and let go a little bit too. But there's a thing about resistance that keeps something. You know that expression, what we resist persists? This is not about resisting the fact that I had a thought that brought me feeling. It's not about pushing away a feeling that's uncomfortable or agitates me or disturbs my state of mind. It's not about resisting a situation that comes into my life from the outside in and says, oh, now I'm agitated. And I don't resist. I don't resist the rain. I don't resist the taxi pulling in front of me. I don't resist the person who hoots behind me. I don't resist the fact that I've created some feeling that created anxiety in me. I don't resist the anger. It just comes and it goes. I don't do anything about it. I don't act on it. But I don't have to like, oh, there's no struggle. I'm not beating it up. I'm not fighting with it. I don't have to fight inside of myself. That's the potential for mindfulness. Are there any other questions?
So we've had some lovely chats. Amanda's been giving us some really useful tips. She said for Vanessa, choose one daily activity to be mindful about. So for example, whether it's brushing your teeth or showering, and be fully present without other thoughts. And she said also focus on breath. It also helps. So thank you, Amanda, for all the comments in the comment box. Angela, for us, it was really incredible spending the last hour with you. I'm sure, as in everyone present, we really felt ourselves being present in this webinar, when so often our minds in a million different other places. So thank you for a wonderful, wonderful, mindful session, and for your time this morning, for giving it to Orjet. For our audience that are here, before we close off, I'd just like to say thank you for your participation. And also, if you would like to make a donation to Orjet, I have put the link to our donation page in the chat, or you can go to www.orjet.org